All aboard! Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, football fans of all ages, I am Beast Mike, and you've now arrived at my train of thought. It's that time of year where I start to ask one simple question for all 32 teams. Where do they go from here? Now, for YouTube, this is a very new endeavor for me and for these kinds of videos, but here's how I do it. I talk about one team in each conference per day, and I do it in ascending order. In other words, I start with the worst teams and work my way up into what will obviously be the Niners and the Chiefs once again. Now, because the Chiefs won the title, the NFC team will always go first, and when it comes to the playoff matchups or teams, if you will, it will go in order of when you were eliminated, the lowest seed goes first. For example, the first playoff combo is going to be the Rams and the Steelers because they were the lowest seeds gone on Wild Card Weekend. Then it'll be Dolphins, Eagles, and so on and so forth. Similar to what's going to happen here with the first stop I'm going to make in this 2024 rendition of the series is going to take me to Charlotte and the Carolina Panthers. Let's see. Nice things I could say about the Carolina Panthers. Frankie Louvu's really good tackling linebacker. He had 125 of those tackles this past season. He's a really good player. More on him in a little bit. Brian Burns, very good edge rusher. He's been a great edge rusher for a lot of his career. And more on him in a little bit as well. He racked up another good season. Let's see here. What else? Something nice. Adam Thielen, 1,000 yards receiving. His first year out of Minnesota. He was productive. Chuba Hubbard, he was productive. He had 900 plus yards. The Panthers were actually top 5 in pass defense and total defense when it came to yardage. That's not bad. Okay, we got some things here. See, J.C. Horn went healthy. Jeremy Chin went healthy. Good players in the secondary. That's not bad. Let's see, something nice. More things that are nice. The all-black uniforms, I dig it. The helmets that go with them. I like the Black Panther, rest in peace Chadwick Boseman type of flow. I dig that. That's nice. The city of Charlotte looks like a really nice city to live in. I think that's really nice. That's about it. The Panthers were trash. This was a really bad season in so many ways. The offensive line never really developed and never got better. And Bryce Young was beat up for a lot of this season. A Maybach 62 would be a really nice car to have. I would argue the Maybach is probably my dream car, the electric version, of course. But to get sacked 62 times is probably not a good way to spend 4 months of an NFL season. Bryce Young had to go through all that. It was not great. And Carolina's offense never got out of the ground or off the blocks or wherever you want to go with this. It was bad from the rip. Let's see, Frank Reich did not work out really well with them. Then there's the Dan Snyder Award for the worst owner in the league. That is clearly going to David Tepper, who has supplanted Snyder as such. And the whole spilling the drink or throwing the drink incident in Duval, not a great look. Nothing about David Tepper's tenure as Carolina Panthers owner is a great look. And this has gone really bad from every possible standpoint. Dave Canales, you got your work cut out for you. I think he did a good job with Baker Mayfield last year in guiding him to one of his best seasons of his career and guiding the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense to being a very efficient unit, even though they still couldn't run the ball. And the Bucs ended up getting to the divisional round, and I think Dave Canales had a good part in it. Let's see if he could help out Bryce Young, and can they get an offensive line to kind of protect him? Can Dan Morgan, yes, the same Dan Morgan who was the linebacker in Carolina for a while, can he help in the general manager role get the Panthers roster back to what it needs to be? Because what it is right now is kind of barren. Yeah, the defense has got talent, and I think there are some players you can work with on offense. I think Young is salvageable, and I'm not one of those people who believes that you have to have a quarterback that's 6'3" or 4", 230 with a rocket arm, 230 pounds, and a rocket arm or something like that. No, I believe you can win with your mind and win with some sort of athleticism, which Young clearly has. Some people were saying that he would be a better version of what Tua was, but more athletic or out of college. And some people thought he was going to, fresh out the gate, be really good. And he just never got out of the blocks last year. I think with some more time and obviously a better roster, I think he could be that. But how does Carolina get there? How do the Panthers get there with quite a few free agents that they probably should be a little concerned about when it comes to this team? C.J. Henderson's a former first-round pick, same as J.C. Horn, both cornerbacks. The former is a free agent. You might want to do something with him. The latter, they're going to have to decide a fifth-year option for. I would probably pick it up if I were Carolina. I think that would be a good move for Horn. Horn's a pretty good player. Henderson, I think, could be decent in the right system. He just hasn't found his footing yet. DJ Shark's an okay receiver, but I think they can let him go. Luvu, as I mentioned before, he's a really good off-ball linebacker, gets a lot of tackles. He's very consistent in this regard. He could get paid at some point very quickly. And the aforementioned best player on the team, Brian Burns, is also a free agent who's going to command big-time dollars, and he should. Brian Burns is a really good edge rusher. And I think with the right defense, and really any defense, honestly, he can easily bag a double-digit sack year at any time. I like Derek Brown. They're going to have to decide on what to do with him coming up at some point in time, because he's a really good player up front. He had 100 tackles plus this past season. This is not the year for Derek Brown and deciding on him yet, but they're going to have to make some decisions about him for the 25 offseason, but that's 25. Carolina does, however, have some money. They're not completely broke, which is probably a good thing considering their draft pick situation, which I'm going to get to in a minute. According to SpotRack, the Panthers are 13th best in the league when it comes to cap space. They have about $42 million in cap flexibility to work with. So they could franchise Burns, for example, and or pay Brown and or make some other contract moves happen, and it's going to work out pretty well for them. Unfortunately, the whole trading DJ Moore and 2 firsts and other stuff to get Bryce Young, that's kind of backfired a bit. That first-round pick this year is probably going to net the Bears Caleb Williams or another ransom, as they may trade that pick. More on the Bears in a couple of days. Carolina does have their own picks in rounds 2 through 4. They have 2 fifths, one from the Titans, one from the Niners, and they have the Cardinals' 6th-round pick in terms of the NFL draft. Carolina needs to get high-end talent in the worst way possible. Some of it's their own, some of it is obviously on different teams or in the draft. How quickly can Carolina do this? And matter of fact, how short of a leash will Dave Canales have, knowing that David Tepper is quick to have a shorter leash on his coaches? He wants success now, and when he doesn't get it, he fires. And we've seen this already a couple of times with Matt Rule and then Frank Wright. Though the Rule firing, to be fair, did have to happen. Carolina, you've got some work to do, but at least this time next year should be better than this past year, right? Let's go from Charlotte to Foxborough on our next stop and go to what once was the dynasty of the NFL for 20 years. A dynasty that everybody hated, a dynasty that everyone wished and prayed for their downfall, and now it's here. After mediocrity, when Tom Brady decided to bolt for Tampa Bay and win another title, we now have a Patriots team that finally cratered to the center of the earth and everybody danced on its grave. Well, outside of the New England states anyway. It wasn't the fault of the defense. Christian Barmore and Kyle Duggar, more on him a little bit. Matt Judon, when he was healthy, was pretty solid. And Christian Gonzalez, who I thought would be the best corner in the draft, turned out to be as such until he got hurt. The Patriots defense, to be honest, is actually pretty productive and pretty solid. Though they weren't as opportunistic as their 2022 form, when they had 8 non-offensive touchdowns. They were ridiculous in that realm. They only got beat up and kind of sort of blown out, and by blown out I mean anything 2 scores or more, in 4 games this past season. Their defense did keep them in a majority of their games. And then there's their offense. This was bad. And it's not just the Mac Jones kind of bad, which was terrible, but it was all the way bad. And it was by no means explosive. You didn't get the big home run plays that you kind of need in today's NFL from any other guys, pretty much. I like Ramondre Stevenson. I think he's a good power back. I think he's a good change of pace back, but he's the best guy in their offense, and I'm not sure if that's a really good thing. I like Hunter Henry. I think he's a good, solid, reliable tight end, and more on him in a little bit. Kendrick Bourne, I think, is a solid slot receiver. More on him in a little bit. And then there's Mac Jones. Now, to be fair, I've had the same thought about Mac Jones for a while now. At Alabama, he gets compared to Tua and Jalen Hurts a lot, right? And I think the statement I always thought about when it came to him, to Mac, was there's a difference between carrying a team to a title and being the reason for winning it or being a reason for winning it. And I felt like Tua and Jalen Hurts can be the reasons for winning championships at college. And I think both those guys, Tua and Hurts, are very good quarterbacks. I think they're top 10 QBs in the game. I don't love Hurts as a passer, but Jalen Hurts and his success is undeniable. Then there's Mac Jones, and I don't see anything that really stands out, like Hurts' athleticism or Tua's precision passing. I just don't see what sticks out with Mac Jones. And yes, New England did him no favors by really not putting a competent offense around him that could get busy and be productive and kind of hide these flaws, or at least play calling that was at least efficient enough to make sure that Mac Jones had a fighting chance. That's fair. But he just doesn't do anything great. And I just don't buy him as a starter in this league. I think mentally he's just not there. I think he needs to change the pace and change the scenery more so than a whole lot of other pieces on this team. Maybe with a better offensive mind as a coordinator, he could get busy and be productive and be either a stopgap QB1 or a more full-on QB2. But as a full-on QB1, I just don't see it. I never really did with him. Fortunately for them, New England can rectify this situation in a little bit, and I'll talk about that. But first, the obvious elephant in the room, or a hoodie that's leaving it. The fact that we can say that Bill Belichick is the former coach of the New England Patriots is still kind of wild to me. Sure, we thought this day was coming because of his age, but the way that this happened is just kind of weird to say, and weird that we're here now. But we are here now. And I think Jerome Mayo can be a pretty good coach. I think the defense is going to stay afloat because of him. And though I do question the offense and its personnel, I do think New England's going to improve what was. It can't be much worse there. Still, the fact that we're saying Belichick is no longer the coach of the New England Patriots, it just seems very weird. It'll feel weird when Greg Popovich is no longer the Spurs head coach, or it'll feel weird. It feels weird that Nick Saban's not the Alabama head coach. It's like that. Former coaches who are legends in the game, who are Hall of Famers in the game, who created dynasties in their respective leagues, who are not their coach. It just feels kind of weird, to be honest. For New England, how do they turn the page? How do they move forward into a brand new era? What do they do? Well, let's start with their cap room. They've got a lot of it. They have the most in the AFC. They are number 2 overall in the league. How's $86.8 million worth of cap space for the Patriots, who need to make a whole lot of things happen as soon as humanly possible? I think that would work out pretty well. They do have some free agents, to be fair, that they are going to have to make decisions on, and they're going to have to make some moves to keep. Let's start with their best. That's Kyle Duggar. Duggar's had an excellent career so far with New England. He has turned himself into a really, really good safety, and there's really not much he can't do. If you want to get a big NO, Duggar can do that. If you want Duggar to go on a safety blitz, say less. He got you. Need him to go get some tackles? Yeah, he had 100 plus last year. He's really, really good at pretty much everything he has to do for that Patriot defense. He would be a critical loss if for some reason he's not there. I've always liked Lawrence Guy. I've always liked him as a pretty solid run stuffer. And if New England were to lose him, I think that would be a pretty bad look. I think he's a very solid player in that realm. What did they do with Ezekiel Elliott, who was at least decent? Same with Mike Gesicki. They were both decent RB2 tight end twos for the Patriots and kind of trying to mask the flaws of Mac Jones with their 12 personnels. What do they do? And then what happens with Kendrick Bourne, who I think can be a very productive slot receiver for a good offense? I think that would be another loss that would be a little rough to deal with, but they have enough money where there really isn't much that the Patriots couldn't do if they decided to do it. New England really is in a spot where they can be aggressive in free agency, but will they be? They can also be kind of sort of aggressive with the draft. They have the 3rd overall pick, and a lot of people, myself included, would imagine that there's a quarterback that's going to be pegged there. Is it Jalen Daniels? Is it Drake May? What will they do with that spot? We'll see. They have all of their picks except for round 7, which comes from the Bears. Other than that, the Patriots, who are known to trade back in the Belichick era, could probably stay at 3 and get the quarterback of their future. Or, for some reason, Marvin Harrison if they address the QB spot in free agency. So that's New England. And it kind of begs the question, are we heading into another dark ages for the Patriots? Where there was a time from 1989 to 1995, the New England Patriots were straight up trash. They had a 5-win season, I should say, in 89. And then they really bottomed out in 1990, the 1-15 year. They got Bledsoe after that. Then they got 6 wins, good. And then back down to 2 wins, not good. Backed up to 5, not very good. But then they had a surprise playoff run, got to 10-6, and then inverted that record the following year, 95. And then they went to the Super Bowl in 96. So that kind of sort of worked out pretty well with Parcells that year. They just happened to run into Reggie White and Brett Favre and company. So this could go one of two ways. Either this is another dark ages, considering how stacked the AFC is at this moment in time in terms of overall rosters and the quarterback play especially, or New England finds their way right back into it with a more modernized offense and a still very productive defense that will allow them to keep up with the AFC's high tiers. Only time will tell there. But that's the final stop on this train of thought. The next train will depart from Glendale and the Arizona Cardinals, a team that was scrappy and gritty and fought their way through a lot of their games this past season. And then there's the Chargers, a team that a lot of people had very high hopes and expectations for and believed that Justin Herbert would take that next step forward, and yet he didn't. And yet they didn't. He and the team and a lot of the high-priced talent went backwards this past season in a big way. Though we think of the Chargers and the Cardinals entirely differently, there is one question that both squads will have to answer. Where do they go from here?